Big news today as Wall Street is bracing for a U.S. trade war with China that would hurt American companies, farmers, and consumers. A sharp decline in the Dow Jones Industrial Average is expected this morning. China is expected to retaliate against new U.S. tariffs that began on Friday.
The Trump administration is already preparing more tariffs on nearly all Chinese goods. President Trump tweeted yesterday, quote, "We are right where we want to be with China." Ben Tracy just returned from a 2-year assignment in Beijing, so he's just the man to have at the White House following the trade battle. Ben, good morning.
Good morning. So the Chinese are vowing to take what they're calling necessary countermeasures. That could include tariffs on U.S. products. They could also make life very difficult for U.S. companies doing business in China. In a series of tweets this morning, President Trump seems to be doubling down on his belief that only China will be hurt in this trade war, but now his own advisors are contradicting him.
Both sides will pay.
White House economic advisor Larry Kudlow admitted Sunday what nearly every economist knows to be true. The tariffs President Trump is imposing on Chinese goods imported into the U.S. are not solely paid for by the Chinese.
But it's U.S. businesses and U.S. consumers who pay, correct?
Yes, to some extent. Again, both sides will suffer on this.
On Friday, President Trump slapped a 25% tariff on approximately $200 billion worth of Chinese imports and is now ordering his trade representatives to start the paperwork to tariff an additional $300 billion. Basically everything China sends to the U.S., from cell phones to furniture. It's a fight the president says is worth having.
So our country can take in $120 billion a year in tariffs, paid for mostly by China, by the way, not by us.
Tariffs do make Chinese goods more expensive, which can hurt China's economy. But the actual tariffs are a tax paid by U.S. companies that import Chinese products. Companies can either take on those costs and make less money, or they raise prices on U.S. consumers, which is what often happens. But President Trump isn't just battling China on the world stage. He's also at war with Congress. Democrats have launched more than 20 separate investigations into President Trump, his actions as president, his personal finances, and his administration's policies.
The Democrats are more interested in subpoenas than solutions.
On Face the Nation, Republican House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy criticized Democrats for what isn't getting done.
We want to move forward. We got health care. We got trade. We got a crisis on our border.
And while Democrats say they can multitask,
Don't think that we can't do both.
even on a bipartisan issue like infrastructure, so far there's been no concrete legislative progress. President Trump seems to be relishing the fight. It was a rainy and chilly Sunday here in Washington, and that may account for the more than dozen tweets he sent out. He called Democrats nuts and crazed lunatics and said the real constitutional crisis is Democrats refusing to work. John.
All right, Ben Tracy at the White House. Thank you, Ben.